You made me feel brand new. What a treasure, such a pleasure. For as long as I can remember, I wanted to be a singer, but I was too shy to sing in front of anybody. When I was young, I used to listen to albums that I would steal from my mother's collection, West Side Story and Oklahoma and Barbra Streisand, and I would sing along when no one was home. I was too shy to join a choir and certainly too shy to take voice lessons. But I loved music and I wanted to be near music. So in 7th grade, I started playing the flute, and I played flute from 7th grade to 12th grade and entered Appalachian State University on a flute scholarship. I had one close brush with voice lessons my junior year of high school. I finally got up enough courage and I thought, maybe I can actually do this and take lessons. And I auditioned for a lady in town, the top teacher in town. She taught everybody who was anybody, and she didn't take me. So I was rejected. Boo-hoo, I kept playing flute. And then at App State, my first year of school as a flute major, I made friends with 2 vocalists, a fella named Chris and a gal named Roberta. And we used to practice in the evenings, and our practice rooms were adjacent to each other. And we would take little breaks, and we would join in Chris's room. And on these little breaks, he would play show tunes and sing for us. And Roberta would join in, and she would sing too. And I would just listen. But after a couple of months, Chris asked me if I would like to sing, and I was feeling braver after all those months of listening to the 2 of them, and I felt safe. So I said, okay, sure. And I sang for him. And he said, wow, Wendy, you should take voice lessons, which I heard as, you should be a voice major, because that's what I wanted to hear, The next fall, my sophomore year, I auditioned to be in the voice department at ASU, and they must have been hard-pressed for voice majors because they took me. I went in and sang Come Unto Him from Messiah. I knew nothing about vocal technique, and I was as green could be. But they accepted me, and I began to work with a wonderful teacher named Sharon Papillon, who really brought me out of my shell and got me started down the path. And then after she went to teach at another college 3 years later, I moved to a different studio, Julia Pedigo, and I studied with her my senior year and 2 years of graduate school. And she refined my technique and instilled in me a love of art song. She worked my French diction, made me sing lots of Handel, which I used to hate because it was so hard. But I did what was good for me. She knew what was best. And I'm very thankful for their instruction and the path that I was finally able to get on after so many years of longing for it. As far as a teacher, I'm not sure. When it comes to technique, repertoire, and performance, I'd like to think that that's pretty even in my studio, but truthfully, when people first come to me, we spend a lot of time on technique because it's really hard to sing a lot of repertoire and really get into performing until your instrument is balanced and you feel empowered and you know your instrument and how it works. We do a lot of the science of singing. We study anatomy and physiology, thus the anatomy posters. We use fun technology like Voce Vista to study harmonics and acoustics. And yes, you can make all of those topics accessible and fun to 12-year-olds even. So that's what we do. And that's where we start. Then we focus more on rep and then performance. As far as going back and forth between styles, I cross-train my voice every day in classical and contemporary. I work technique for both, so I'm ready for what anybody's throwing at me that week to sing. The hardest thing for me to do, though, was to style up the jazz right. Coming from classical music, it was really hard to eliminate a consistent vibrato Because in classical, we want a consistent vibrato. And in jazz, that's just one little texture we use from time to time. That was hard to do for me. And not singing legato lines and not feeling like I had to hold out every phrase. That was hard. The other thing is feeling like I didn't have to sing the rhythms on the page as they were written. I can tell you, somebody who's trained classically 10, 15 years, to say, oh, you don't have to sing exactly what's on the page. That's terrifying. If you've grown up singing jazz, you don't think twice about it, I'm guessing. But as a classical person, it is terrifying. And that was just really hard for me to grasp. And now that I've grasped it, it's a lot of fun. But those are the things that I really have to work on most with students that come to me from the classical world who want to sing jazz, to try to give them a more authentic sound in the genre. The other thing that was super hard for me, and that terrified me and still terrifies me just a wee bit today, is the scatting portion. I mean, it's one thing to tell a singer, you don't have to sing exactly the rhythms on the page. You tell them, hey, just listen to the changes and let's go and make up a melody over those harmonies. What? That's crazy. Again, it's becoming more fun. I have most fun when I'm doing it by myself at home and no one's listening. And I have been pressured to do it in public sometimes. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm trying to get better at it. I will say, if I go to my grave and I'm never a great scat singer, I will still feel like I've lived a full life as a vocalist. I've had a lot of favorite singers as I've gone through my stages of voice learning. When I was a classical vocalist, it was all about Beverly Sills and Ellie Ameling and Kathleen Battle. Those were the singers I most wanted to emulate. When I was doing theater, it was Barbra Streisand and Julie Andrews. And as a jazz vocalist, I started studying jazz about 10 years ago, so there's been a long list of singers I've been working through. And they're all so wonderful in their own way. It's almost impossible to pick a favorite. But, two have really, really touched me in different ways. One is Dee Dee Bridgewater. I've saw her at Newport this past year and in several other performances, and she's riveting on stage. She's just all in, and she's theatrical, and she's full of life, and God, she just gets me deep inside. It's a very visceral reaction I have to her, and I just adore her. And the other one is Cecile McLaurin-Salvant. And she's so different from Dee Dee, right? But so wonderful. She uses so many different textures and colors in her voice, and so many dynamic contrasts, and she can tell a story on stage. Just stand there and sing that song and reach into your heart. And she's the only singer that I've ever seen live who has made me cry. I have seen her 4 times, and she has made me cry 4 times. I'll pay money for that every time I can. I was really kind of shocked and humbled when I was asked to do this interview, because so many of the people that I've learned from and that I admire and draw inspiration from have been interviewed here. I started doing jazz about 10 years ago, and in that time have had the opportunity to work with Jennifer Barnes and Rosanna Eckert and Greg Jaspers at the University of North Texas Vocal Jazz Camp, and Rosanna and Greg at the New York Voices Camp, along with Peter Eldridge and Lauren Kinnan and Darman Meter and Kim Nazarian. All of those aforementioned people are so generous with their time and their talent, and they're so passionate about teaching and jazz. They inspire me. They've inspired I don't know how many people, but if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be doing any of this. And there's not a day goes by that I don't use something that they have taught me or share something they've taught me with a student. It's beautiful. And I certainly wouldn't be here without Michelle Weir. Michelle, I discovered after one of my jazz workshops in the summer. I found her online, and she got me started playing jazz piano and writing smoking hot lead sheets and all teaching me everything I need to know about being a band leader and being a jazz vocalist. And I'm so grateful to her. You know, when you get off the bandstand, somebody can tell you, wow, you sound great. You're such a good singer. And I like hearing that. I mean, we all like hearing that, right? But when people, like guys in the band, guys in the big band, or guys in the rhythm section, come up after and they say, you're really good. You're not a singer. You're a musician. That means everything. Or you're not just a singer. You're a musician. You're like the guys here in the band. When they say stuff like that, that thrills me. And the only reason that I get comments like that right now is because of Jennifer and Rosanna and Greg and Lauren and Peter and Darman and Kim and Chris Buzzelli and Michelle. So I want to thank you all for helping me be a true jazz musician. In 2025, I see myself teaching more and more commercial music to passionate students. My studio is a little bit split right now. I've got some classical and some commercial. By 2025, I see myself going full commercial. There, I said it out loud. I see myself going full commercial by 2025. I also plan on learning to play the piano well enough to accompany my jazz students in public. I already play for them in their lessons. Thank you very much, Michelle Weir. But I need to take it to the next level, so that's my plan. My third plan is to begin writing my own big band charts. I sing a lot of big band, and I want to do some of that for myself, so I'm going to. Yeah, okay, yeah, I can do that. We're going to do it. Sounds like it's a pretty full plate, so I'll leave it there. I guess I'll just run off and, practice some altered dominant scales or something. Not really. Keep swinging, y'all.